Hello everyone. Before we start, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment with where you're from and what time you're watching. That way, YouTube will keep showing you stories just like this one. Now, let's begin. I used to do Amazon Flex deliveries to make extra money. The pay was decent and I could work my own hours. Christmas Eve 2023 was supposed to be my last shift before taking a few days off. I figured I'd knock out a quick route, pocket some overtime pay, and be home by midnight. Most of the deliveries that night were normal. Beautiful houses all lit up with Christmas lights, families gathered in living rooms, the kind of wholesome scenes you see on greeting cards. I remember feeling pretty good about it all. The roads were quiet, the air was cold and crisp, and I was making good time. Around 10 o'clock, my phone buzzed with a new delivery. The address was about 15 minutes outside Bloomington, way out in the rural areas where the houses get sparse and the trees get thick. I'd delivered out there a few times before, so I wasn't too concerned. Just another drop-off. The GPS took me down State Road 45, then onto progressively narrower roads. First, it was a 2-lane highway, then a county road, then what was basically a glorified dirt path. No streetlights out here. Just my headlights cutting through the darkness and the occasional reflective eyes of deer watching from the tree line. When I finally arrived at the address, I understood why this delivery was scheduled so late. The house was deep in the woods, surrounded by dense pine trees that seemed to lean in from all sides. It was an old 2-story farmhouse, the kind that's been standing since the 1800s. White paint peeling off the siding, shutters hanging crooked. The whole place was dark except for one window on the second floor. A light was flickering up there, dim and irregular, like a candle or a dying bulb. No Christmas decorations, no cars in the driveway. Just this lonely old house sitting in the middle of nowhere. I grabbed the package from my back seat. It was a large Amazon box, surprisingly heavy for its size. The label showed a name I can't remember now, but it was addressed to this location. The driveway was long, maybe 50 yards from the road to the porch, covered in gravel that crunched loudly under my feet with every step. The silence out there was oppressive. No wind, no animals, nothing. Just the sound of my footsteps and my own breathing. I climbed the porch steps, and each one creaked under my weight. The wooden boards felt soft, almost rotten. The front door had peeling green paint and a doorbell that looked like it hadn't worked in decades. I set the package down, pulled out my phone, and took the required delivery photo. Right as the camera flashed, that upstairs window went completely dark. Just out. Like someone had been waiting for me to finish before turning it off. I felt a cold prickle run down my spine, but I shook it off. People do weird things. Maybe they were camera shy. I turned and headed back to my car, eager to get to the next delivery and out of these woods. I was halfway down the driveway when my phone buzzed. New delivery. Notification. I glanced at the screen and froze. Same address. Same name. Another package marked, "Urgent, deliver tonight," in red letters. That didn't make sense. I'd just delivered there. I pulled up the app to check and my stomach dropped. According to the system, I'd never completed the first delivery. The photo I'd taken wasn't there. No record of it at all. I looked back at the house. The porch was empty. The package I'd just left was gone. No lights had come on. I hadn't heard the door open or close. No footsteps, no sound of any kind. But the package had vanished. My hands were shaking as I grabbed the second package from my car. Same size, same weight as the first. I told myself there was a glitch in the app, that maybe someone had been waiting inside and grabbed the first package the moment I turned around. But I hadn't heard anything. And that silence, it felt wrong. I walked back up to the porch, gravel crunching, steps creaking. I set the second package down in the exact same spot and took another photo. The flash illuminated the door for a split second. I could have sworn the door was open a crack. I turned to leave, and that's when I heard it. "Thank you for coming back." The voice came from the doorway. Soft, almost a whisper, feminine and old. I froze mid-step, my back still to the house. I hadn't heard the door open, hadn't heard footsteps, but someone was there, just behind me, speaking from that dark threshold. I turned slowly. The door was open now, maybe 6 inches, but I couldn't see anything inside. Just pure darkness. No silhouette, no shape, nothing. "No problem," I muttered, my voice barely working. I walked quickly back to my car, not running but moving fast enough that the gravel kicked up behind my shoes. I got in, pulled the door shut, locked it. I was reaching for the ignition when my phone buzzed again. Third delivery, same address, same name. "No," I said out loud. No. I checked the app. All 3 deliveries were showing as undelivered. The photos weren't saving. It was like the system was broken, stuck in some kind of loop. I turned the key. The engine cranked but wouldn't catch. It turned over and over, that horrible grinding sound, but it wouldn't start. I tried again and again. My heart was pounding now, my breath fogging up the windshield. I looked in the rearview mirror at the house. The front door was wide open now, fully open, like someone had pushed it all the way back. And that upstairs window, the one that had gone dark, was flickering again, the same weak, dying light. My phone buzzed, but this time it wasn't the app. It was a text message from an unknown number. "Just one more. Please." I stared at the screen. I'd never given any customer my personal number. The app doesn't work that way. There's no way anyone should have been able to text me directly. I tried the ignition again, pumping the gas pedal, whispering, "Come on, come on, come on." Under my breath, the engine finally caught. I threw it into reverse and backed out of that driveway so fast I almost hit a tree. I didn't look back until I was on the main road, and when I did, I saw it. Someone was standing in that upstairs window. A silhouette, completely still, barely visible against the flickering light behind them. Too tall, too thin. Just standing there, watching me leave. I drove straight home. Didn't finish my route. Didn't care about the overtime. I just needed to be away from that place. Later that night, after I'd calmed down enough to think straight, I checked the app. All 3 deliveries to that address were marked as successfully completed. The photos were there now, time-stamped correctly. Everything looked normal. Except when I zoomed in on the photos, I saw something I hadn't noticed before. In the first photo, in the darkness beyond the door, there was a pale shape, barely visible, but there. In the second photo, that shape was closer. Near the doorway, in the third photo, the one I never actually took because I left, the shape was standing right in the doorway, clear enough to see. A woman in a white nightgown, her face obscured by shadow, her hands reaching forward. I never saw her when I was there. Not once. The next day, Christmas morning, I looked up the address. I had to know. The house had been abandoned for 3 years. The previous owner, an elderly woman named Margaret Schaffer, had died there on Christmas Eve 2020. Alone. She'd been waiting for family that never came, packages that never arrived. They found her on Christmas morning sitting in a chair by the upstairs window, still in her nightgown. The customer name on those 3 deliveries? Margaret Schaffer. I quit Amazon Flex the next week. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care if there's a rational explanation. I know what I heard, I know what I felt, and I know that whoever or whatever was in that house is still waiting for deliveries that will never come. If you're still listening, you probably enjoy stories like this. A like or a comment helps keep them alive. I drove for DoorDash in Portland, Oregon for about 2 years. The money was decent, especially during the holidays when everyone was ordering in. Christmas Eve was always one of the busiest nights. People ordering last-minute meals, desserts for family gatherings, that sort of thing. This happened last year, December 24th, 2023. I was on my final delivery of the night, scheduled for 11:30 p.m. Late, but the payout was good. $50 for what should have been a 15-minute drive to drop off Chinese food. The address was in a part of southeast Portland I didn't know well. An older apartment complex called the Riverside Terrace, built sometime in the 70s by the look of it. 4 stories, brown brick, small balconies, the kind of place where the rent is cheap and nobody asks too many questions. I pulled into the parking lot and checked my phone. Apartment 3C. 3rd floor. The delivery instructions were odd. Do not ring doorbell. Knock 3 times and leave food by door. We'll tip extra for silence. I grabbed the bag of food from my passenger seat. It smelled good. Fried rice, sesame chicken, spring rolls. My stomach growled. I hadn't eaten since noon. The main entrance to the building was propped open with a brick. The lobby was dimly lit, wallpaper peeling, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. There was an elevator, but a handwritten sign taped to it said, "Out of order." So I took the stairs. The stairwell smelled like mildew and cigarette smoke. My footsteps echoed against the concrete walls as I climbed. When I reached the 3rd floor and pushed through the door, I stepped into a long hallway. Apartment doors on both sides, most of them with the numbers falling off or missing entirely. I found 3C at the far end of the hall. The door was slightly different from the others, newer maybe, or just better maintained. There was a peephole in the center and a small welcome mat that looked brand new. I knocked 3 times, like the instructions said. Sharp, clear knocks. Then I set the food down and stepped back, pulling out my phone to take the delivery photo. As I raised the camera, I noticed something. There were other bags by the door, not just 1 or 2. At least a dozen takeout bags, all stacked against the wall next to the door frame. Different restaurants, Thai food, pizza boxes, McDonald's bags, Subway wrappers. Some of them looked old, the paper stained and soft with moisture. I took my photo and turned to leave, but something made me stop. A sound from inside the apartment. Not a voice exactly. More like movement. Shuffling. Like someone dragging something heavy across the floor. Then I heard breathing, right on the other side of the door. Slow, labored breathing. Like someone had just finished running or like they were struggling with something. "Food's here," I called out, even though the instructions said not to. The breathing stopped. Complete silence. I backed away from the door, my skin prickling. I told myself to just leave, to get back to my car and mark the delivery complete, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. That's when I saw the other doors. All along the hallway, next to almost every apartment door, there were piles of old takeout bags. Some small, some huge. Apartment 3A had what looked like weeks' worth of pizza boxes stacked against the wall. Apartment 3E had dozens of paper bags from various restaurants, some so old they were falling apart. But 3C had the most, and they were all recent. I could see the dates on some of the receipts still stapled to the bags, all within the last month. I walked quickly back to the stairwell, my heart beating faster. As I pushed through the door, I heard something behind me, a door opening. I glanced back. The door to 3C was open now, just a crack. No light coming from inside, just darkness. And in that darkness, I saw a pale hand gripping the edge of the door, long fingers, too long, with nails that looked black in the dim hallway light. I ran. Down 3 flights of stairs, through the lobby, out to the parking lot. I got in my car, locked the doors, and sat there for a moment, trying to catch my breath. My phone buzzed. A message from the DoorDash app. Delivery incomplete. Customer reports food was not delivered to correct location. That was impossible. I'd literally just left it there. I'd taken the photo. I'd followed the instructions exactly. Another message came through, this time from the customer directly through the app. Wrong apartment. I'm in 3B, not 3C. Please retrieve food from 3C and deliver to correct door. We'll add a $100 tip. I stared at the message. Then I looked up at the building. The third-floor windows were all dark except for one. A window at the end of the hall which would have been apartment 3C. A face was pressed against the glass, pale, featureless from this distance, but definitely watching me. I put my car in drive and left. I didn't respond to the customer. I didn't go back for the food. I just left. DoorDash deactivated my account the next day for failing to complete a delivery and not responding to customer complaints. I didn't fight it. I didn't care. But here's the thing that still keeps me up at night. A week later, I saw a news article. Portland police had been called to the Riverside Terrace apartments after neighbors reported a smell coming from apartment 3C. They found a woman inside, dead for approximately 6 weeks, sitting in a chair facing the door. Cause of death was starvation. The apartment was full of food, hundreds of takeout orders, none of them opened. Stacked in every room, piled in the corners, rotting. The delivery receipts showed orders placed daily, sometimes multiple times a day, going back months. But here's what made my blood run cold. Police found something else in the apartment. Notebook filled with names and phone numbers, all delivery drivers, at least 30 different people. My name was in that notebook, my phone number, my license plate number, my home address, and next to my name, written in shaky handwriting, came back, knocked 3 times. Good listener. I moved out of Portland 2 months later, changed my number, stopped doing delivery work entirely. I don't know what I delivered to that night. I don't know who or what opened that door after I left. But sometimes, late at night, I still get text messages from unknown numbers. They always say the same thing. Wrong apartment. Come back. I'm still hungry. My name is Sarah, and I drove for Instacart in northern Wisconsin. Grocery deliveries mostly. It was good money during the holidays, and I liked the flexibility. Christmas Eve last year, I picked up one final order around 11 p.m. The payout was incredible. $200 for a single delivery. The order was small, just a few items, but the customer had added a massive tip with a note that said, "Please deliver before midnight." Family tradition, extremely important. The grocery store was nearly empty when I arrived. I grabbed the items quickly. A package of dinner rolls, a can of cranberry sauce, a small turkey, and a pumpkin pie. Traditional Christmas dinner items. Nothing unusual. The delivery address was about 30 miles outside Rhinelander, deep into the Nicolet National Forest area. I'd driven out that way a few times before, but never this late at night. The roads were covered in snow, and my headlights barely cut through the darkness between the trees. My GPS led me down County Highway G, then onto a narrow forest road that didn't even have a name. Just a number. FR 2178. The trees closed in on both sides, their branches heavy with snow, creating a tunnel of darkness. After about 15 minutes of driving through the forest, I arrived at the address. It was a cabin, small and isolated, set back about 100 feet from the road. Smoke was coming from the chimney, and warm yellow light glowed from the windows. Christmas lights were strung along the roofline, blinking red and green. It looked cozy, inviting. Exactly the kind of place you'd want to spend Christmas Eve. I grabbed the grocery bags and walked up the snow-covered path to the front door. As I got closer, I could hear voices inside, laughter, Music. It sounded like a family gathering, multiple people talking over each other in that warm, chaotic way that happens during the holidays. I knocked on the door. The voices inside immediately went silent, completely silent, like someone had hit a mute button. I waited, bags in hand, my breath visible in the cold air. After a moment, I heard footsteps approaching the door. Slow, deliberate footsteps. The door opened. An elderly man stood there, maybe 70 years old, wearing a red flannel shirt and jeans. He had kind eyes and a warm smile. Behind him, I could see the inside of the cabin. A Christmas tree in the corner, presents underneath, a fire crackling in the fireplace. But I couldn't see anyone else. "Thank you so much for coming," he said, his voice gentle. "We've been waiting for you." I handed him the bags. "No problem. Merry Christmas." He took the bags and glanced inside them, then looked back at me with an odd expression. Not quite sad, not quite relieved. Something in between. "You made it before midnight," he said. "That's very important. The tradition must be maintained." I checked my phone. 11:47 p.m. "Glad I could help," I said, starting to back away. Something about his tone was making me uncomfortable. The way he said tradition felt heavy, significant in a way I didn't understand. "Would you like to come in?" he asked. "We always invite the delivery person in. It's part of the tradition." "I appreciate it, but I need to get going," I said. "It's late and I've got a long drive back." His smile faltered. "Are you sure? It would mean a lot to the family. We so rarely get visitors out here." "I'm sure," I said, "but thank you. Merry Christmas." I turned and walked back to my car, my boots crunching in the snow. As I reached my driver's side door, I glanced back at the cabin. The old man was still standing in the doorway, watching me. But now I could see others standing behind him, 4 or 5 people, maybe more, all standing completely still, just standing there in the dim light of the cabin, not moving, not speaking, watching me. I got in my car quickly, started the engine, and pulled away. In my rear-view mirror, I could see them all standing in the doorway now, silhouettes against the warm light, watching as I drove away. The drive back through the forest felt longer than it should have. My GPS showed the same route, but it seemed like I was driving for over an hour before I finally reached the main highway. My phone kept glitching, the screen flickering, the GPS signal cutting in and out. When I finally got home, it was almost 2 a.m. I was exhausted, unsettled, ready to just forget about the whole thing and go to bed. But before I went inside, I checked my Instacart account to make sure the delivery was marked complete. It was. 5-star rating, $200 tip confirmed, and there was a message from the customer. "Thank you for maintaining the tradition. You are our 24th delivery, only one more to go." I stared at that message for a long time. 24th delivery. I'd only made one delivery there. What did that mean? The next day, Christmas morning, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I looked up the address on Google Maps, trying to find the cabin again. The satellite view showed nothing but forest. No structures, no clearings, nothing. I called Instacart support and asked them to pull up the delivery details. They told me there was no record of that delivery in their system. No order, no address, no customer account. But the $200 was in my account. Real money already deposited. I drove back out to that forest road a few days later, in daylight, just to prove to myself that I hadn't imagined it. I found FR 2178 easily enough. I drove down it slowly, looking for the cabin. I never found it. The forest was dense and unbroken. No driveways, no paths, no signs that anyone had ever lived out there. But about halfway down that road, I found something else. A small wooden cross on the side of the road, partially buried in snow. I stopped and got out to look at it. There was a name carved into it, weathered but still legible. And a date. December 24th. Not just one cross. 24 of them, all along that stretch of road, each with a different name, and December 24th carved into the wood. Different years going back decades. The oldest one I found was from 1978. I left and never went back. I quit Instacart a week later. But sometimes, late at night, I think about what that old man said. You were our 24th delivery, only one more to go. And I wonder who made the 25th delivery, and whether they made it out. Some deliveries aren't meant to be completed. Some doors aren't meant to be knocked on. And some traditions are better left unknown. If you made it through these stories, you're braver than most. Thanks for listening. And if you're ever making a delivery on Christmas Eve, maybe just leave the package at the curb. Some people aren't waiting for packages. They're waiting for something else.